Okay. So what we had discussed in the last session. Okay, that means in inheritance. Hmm. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. Before we'll start with the today's had remembered from the last day which we had discussed, right? So from that many topics you can write that topic name over here that we had discussed this topics in the last lecture. Okay. So because this is the revision session, right? So you are aware with this. So write down that topic name over here in inheritance chapter what we had discussed in the last session. Yes, you can write that topic name over here because every time I am saying the things or I am taking the revision session, right? So this time you need to write the answer over here that what we had discussed in the last session. Okay, any other students? Okay, so let's start from the next topic that is constructors in a derived class. Okay, so till this time we had discussed that how your base class constructor can work, how your derived class constructor can work. But now we have, you can say, two class with us with the relationship between the two class are inheritance relationship. Some of our parent class, some of them are child class. So from that parent to child class, if we want to uh, give some relationship, right, then there must be, or you can say that there is some constructors, there are some parameterized constructor or maybe the default constructor, functions, datas. So we had discussed functions and variables. and what are the relationship from parent class to child class with your variables as well as the functions. But now we are concerning with the constructors also. So in that case, what is the major, you can say the difference is, however, if any base class contains a constructor with one or more arguments, then it is mandatory for the derived class to have a constructor and pass the arguments to the base class constructor. Now, remember while applying inheritance, we usually create the objects using the derived class. So it makes sense for the derived class to pass arguments to the base class constructor. But how we can pass it? So we had discussed this thing, like we must have to execute in order wise. First it may be, or this system have to call the base class constructor and then derived class constructor. So if we are trying to pass the data, something like this, we need to pass the data like this, break it, semicolon. So the parameterized constructor data of your base class, then second base class, and then your derived class, if there is. Now, in overriding, what are the major difference between function overloading and overriding? So now what is overriding? You need to give the answer over here in the chat. What is function overriding? Write down your answer over here. Okay, so function overriding, that means function name is same, but the parameter list are also same, but in the different class. Then it is known as function overriding. So if we inherit a class into the derived class and provide a definition for one of the base classes function, again inside the derived class, then that function is said to be the overridden function. And this mechanism is called the function overriding. Now, requirements for function overriding are: inheritance should be there. Function overriding cannot be done within a class. For this, we require a derived class and a base class. Now, second, function that is redefined must have exactly the same declaration in both the either base class or maybe the derived class. So in both the classes, we must have to redefine that function. So that means same name, same return type, and same parameter list. Okay, so chapter 6 is completed over here. Now, is there any doubt in this chapter? Inheritance. So we'll discuss polymorphism, chapter number 7. Okay, so we can start with the new chapter. Okay. Okay. So what are the types of polymorphism? want answer from other people also. We have 26 students over here, and this is the revision session, so you can give the answer, and you have to give the answer. What are the types of polymorphism? Okay, so the runtime polymorphism, that means you can say dynamic binding process, lead binding process. Okay. Now at runtime, when it is known what class objects are under consideration, so the appropriate version of the function is invoked. So we have more than two kinds of two functions in the same program. Then which function needs to be called at the runtime, that will be decided by runtime. That process is known as runtime polymorphism. So now for that we require some pointers of that derived data type, right? So that means what? Like using that pointer, we can access that particular location. So for manipulation of pointers, we have a dereferencing operator as well as the referencing operator. Now, in a dereferencing operator, dereferencing a pointer allows us to get the content of the memory location that the pointer points to. Okay. Now, after assigning the address of the variable to a pointer, we may change the value which is stored at that particular location. So using the dereferencing operator, we can change the content of that memory location. Now you can see this example over here. What are the major types of, you can say, accessing the data using a pointer, using the concept of chaining of pointers. So this stars are, PTR2 is the chain of pointer. Okay, so that pointer PTR2 can point the PTR1. Okay, and if you want to access some data using this PTR2, how can you do it? So that many things are present over here. So you can read this code, and if you want, you can analyze this code thoroughly so that you can um, be clear with how we can access the particular location and how we can access the particular data which is stored at that location. Okay, now I'm giving you 2 more minutes to revise this question, and then we'll start with the next one. If you have any doubt, you can ask me. Okay, so next, the pointer concept. So we can also use the void pointers known as the generic pointers, so which refers to variables of your particular data type. Now, the pointers which are not initialized in a program are called the null pointer. That means we are just declared it but not initialize some value in that particular pointer, right? So that pointers of any data type can be assigned with one value, that is 0 only. So before dereferencing a pointer, it is essential or it is required to assign some value to that pointer. Okay. So this is the thing. How can you assign, how can you increment or decrement your pointer? So kindly read this question. Okay, any doubt in this? Any student having any doubt in this? Okay. So using pointers with arrays and string. So here in this, we can see over here like how we can use pointers with a particular array and with the string. Okay, so there is, you can say, no error checking of array bounds in the C++. So suppose we declare an array of size 25, the compiler issues no warning if the attempt to access 26 location. Okay, so it's not, you can say, a compiler's task, but it's programmer's task to check the array limits. Okay, so we can declare the pointers to array as follows. So how we can declare it? So you can see over here. Likewise, we can check it, or we can declare it. Now, next one, arrays of pointer. So in this arrays of pointer, the array of pointers represents a collection of addresses. That means a different kinds of addresses we can refer it. Like first we can access the zeroth location, then first maybe the address are different, but according to our data type, according to our you can say the size of array, we can continuously access those many locations using this arrays of pointers concept. Okay? Now next, pointers and string. So one of the students has asked me like if I want to print entire array, then how we can. But if using this only, if I want to, if I am trying this, it will only print the first character of my string. Okay, so that was the problem. So here is the solution. One of the solution, you can say, like using this you can do it, or you can print the entire array. Okay. Then a function pointer or pointers to function. So till now we are just discussing the variables of pointers only. So or maybe the pointer to variable or variable to pointer. But now we have a function pointer or pointers to the function. So that particular thing we need to discuss. So here are the you can say pointers to functions concept. So in this pointer to function concept, what we are trying to do? So we are trying to access that particular function, or we are just trying to define some pointers to that particular function. Okay, so first data type and function name. So integer star my function name with some parameters. Right, so here is the example. So here in this example, what we are trying to do, we have one function with us that name is void 8, but the alias name is we are trying to define over here that void star function ptr, and this two are the data type of that particular function. Now I and j's value I am trying to print it. So void subtract I and j value, and here the addition of I and j. So if I want to call that, or if I want to call that function using pointer, how can we do it? So first we have that pointer with us. So function ptr, and this ptr is going to point to that function. Now, according to this, we are just trying to call our add function, or we are just defining that you need to access this add function. And using this ptr, I am passing this value which is entered by, or which is passed by my function argument list, that is 1 comma 2, here 1 comma 2 and 3 comma 2. This is 3 minus 2 and your answer. Okay, so what are the rules, or what are the basic things behind this pointers to function? You can read it over here. The pointer to function is known as a callback function. So we can use this function pointers to refer to a particular function. Now, using function pointers, we can allow a C++ program to select a function dynamically, which is at the runtime. So we can also pass a function as an argument to another function. So here the function is passed as in pointer. That means whatever the function pointer is, that cannot be dereferenced. Now with compared two functions pointers, it will allow us to compare two function pointers, right? And this many things you are aware, like two function pointers are incompatible with each other. Okay. So that point to the known static member function requires the hidden arguments. Okay. So this is pointers to object, right? So if you want to access some data, which is going to operate via my object, that means using this dot operator, we can access that function. But using this arrow operator, we can access the object pointer of your particular function. Okay, so here is the example. You can check this example. We had discussed this in lecture session as well as in the lab session also, right? So try to recall this and what will be the output of this, you can assume, or you can try to find out. Yes, yes, I have not said anything. I'm giving you time to complete this question. Try to recall it, right? That's all. Okay. Now you can write your enrollment number over here. After that, we'll start with the pointers to object, how we can access it, and where we can apply this concept. Okay, write down your enrollment number over here. Is there anyone who can't write the number? They can just inform me. Okay, so now pointers to object, that means what? Like we have one object and using that object, I want to create one pointer of that particular object. So that pointer can store the object address. And now that pointer can access the functions of my particular class. So that means it is known as pointers to object. But in this pointers to object concept, what we are trying to access that we can access we can declare the pointer to object concept of base class, and using that pointer we can access the data items of my derived class also. Okay, so here in this pointer, this is our base pointer. So C++ uses a unique keyword called this to represent an object that invokes my particular member function. So we have you can say three objects with us. So which object is going to call which function right now? Or which is the responsible object to invoke this member function? That is the work of or this pointer can point to that object, which is this function is called. Okay, so the starting address is the same as the address of the first variable in the class structure, but the unique pointer is automatically passed to a member function also when it is going to call. So that means what? So we can directly access that pointer. The name is this pointer, and according to this pointer, we can check that which object is taking a part to call this particular function. Okay, so here is the example of this pointer. So here we have a star this. So how we can use this? So one important application of this pointer, this is to return the object it points to. So if I'll write return star this, that means whatever the object is taking part to call that function, right? That object we can return. Like we have 10 objects, so object 5 can call this can call abc function. That means using this sentence we can return this object 5. Okay, so here is the example. So according to this, we are just trying to call our particular function or constructor with this object, right? So whatever the data we had passed over here in this example, they can just match with this. Okay, so is my age is greater or equal to the user entered age? If yes, then return that particular age. Otherwise, you have to return the entire object. Okay, so here you can see this. Okay, now this is pointers to derived class. So we had already discussed this pointers to derived class. Okay, so here in this example, what we are trying to access. So we can use pointers not only to the base class object, but also to the object of our derived class. So pointers to object of a base class are type compatible with pointers to objects of a particular derived class, not the base class. Make sure. So that's why whenever we are trying to access that base class functions, it will directly call. And when we are trying to access the derived class pointer, that can access both the, you can say pointers. So here pointers to derived class, so you are aware with this. But for that purpose, we need to use this virtual function concept, right? Right. So what is virtual function concept? So whenever we are just trying to derive some object of a particular base class, and that base class object can or you can say one pointer can point to that your base class pointer. Okay, and according to that base class pointer, we are trying to call two display function which is available in one base class and another it is in the derived class. So how we can use it? So if my object is for base class, it will every time call the base class function and only the one copy of this base class function. Though I want to access this derived class function also. Okay, so how we can do it? So for derived class function object, we can access both. But now we have a pointer of base class. So what is the difference? So we first must have to pass it with this base class pointer as well as the derived class pointer. And to differentiate this two same overridden function, we are trying to use this virtual keyword which will allow us to access the base class function as well as the derived class function also. Okay, so clear till now? Any doubt in the virtual function? These are the major points you need to keep in mind when when you are trying to use this virtual function. Okay, try to read it and then we'll move towards the next one. Okay, so this one is also one kind of example, so you can read it. So here we are trying to use the two concept. First, that is virtual function concept, as well as second, that is the array of pointer concept. So try to recall this. We had discussed this same example in lab session also, right? So if you have any doubt like this function, what is the work of this function, what is the basic idea behind this function, you can ask me. Otherwise, we can move towards the next one. These are the rules. Uh, in a, you can say depth way, whenever you are trying to use this virtual function, you have to use this man constructor. In this environment, you can use this virtual function. Okay, so we have 10 basic rules. So They cannot be a static member, must be a member of class, accessed by using the object pointers. Yes, virtual function must be member of some class. That means what? Like we must have to declare it in a particular class. Then and also then we can access it with the override function. Otherwise, it will not allow us. It may be a friend of another class if we want to make it. So base class must be defined even though it may not be used. So we are just trying to use it with the blank bracket also. Okay, this so till now in this chapter, any doubt starting from chapter 1 to chapter 7? Yes, any student having any doubt? At least say yes or no. Yes. In this case, overridden case, we have to follow this because then and only then we can say this is my function overridden concept. Otherwise, we cannot. If your number of type are different, right, same number and data type are different, then it is known as function overloading, not the overriding. Okay. Hmm. Okay, so we are concluding our session over here. So today we had discussed the pointer to object, pointer to function, object pointer concept, dereferencing and referencing operator concept, virtual function concept, pure virtual function concept, the difference between this, how we can put it in the abstract class, what are the major rules while we are using the virtual function that we had discussed, and yes, how we can use object to pointer with the base class pointer on, base class object pointer on. Okay. So starting from 1 to 7, there is no any issue in this chapter. So from next lecture and onwards, we're going to start the chapter number 8. Okay. Okay. Thank you, class. You may leave the session.
Ma'am, Ma'am,
Yes, you want to say something?
yeah, you're going to take our upcoming lab in the Monday, Lab Batch C.
Hmm.